The Red Dragon Pack was feared across 3 star systems. Known for their fiery tempers and unmatched ferocity, they left destruction wherever they went. Ships dared not approach their territory, and even the bravest alien warlords avoided their hunting grounds. But today they were hunting something much closer to home. Their young hatchlings, stolen from the nest during a reckless skirmish weeks ago, had vanished. The pack's massive alpha, Ravathar, led the charge, his crimson scales glittering like molten iron under the twin suns. His roar echoed across the valley, warning every creature that death was near. Ravathar's wings blotted out the sun as he descended upon the clearing. Around him, the pack landed with precision, claws sinking into the rocky terrain, smoke curling from their nostrils in anticipation of the hunt. Their eyes burned with fury, focused on the chaos they expected to find. But what they saw froze them. In the middle of the clearing, curled like a protective shield, lay a human boy, no older than 15. His brown hair was tousled, and his small frame seemed laughably vulnerable compared to the titanic dragons surrounding him. But the most shocking sight of all was the cluster of hatchlings sleeping peacefully atop him. Their tiny claws and wings relaxed, smoke curling gently from their nostrils. Ravathar's jaw clicked. "Impossible," he growled, voice like rolling boulders. "No human has survived in the presence of our young, much less become their guardian." The boy stirred slightly, opening one eye and yawned. "Morning," he said casually, not a trace of fear in his tone. "You're early." The dragons hissed and flared, but he didn't flinch. He extended a hand to the hatchlings, patting them gently. They nuzzled into his palm as if expecting comfort. Ravathar narrowed his eyes, wings spreading in a threatening display. "Step aside, human, or be burned to ash." The boy sighed, sitting up slowly. "Do you want them back, or do you want to fight?" His tone was calm, almost playful. The alpha's flames flared, licking the air. Every dragon in the pack tensed, ready to strike. But the hatchlings chirped softly, curling tighter against the human. Ravathar froze. The boy spoke softly to the hatchlings, words lost to the thunderous roar of the adults, but his voice carried an undeniable authority. The hatchlings relaxed further, even nuzzling his neck. They were safe, calm, and utterly trusting. Ravathar's fury battled with confusion. Why are they not afraid?" he growled. The boy smiled. "Because I don't want to hurt them. I care for them." It was a simple truth, but it resonated. The alpha felt it, an instinct deeper than fire or ferocity. A human had done what no dragon or alien warrior had ever managed. He had earned the trust of the Red Dragon Pack's most precious treasures. Ravathar flared his wings, sending embers into the air. "If this is trickery, you will die," he warned. The human stood calmly, raising a hand toward the hatchlings. "Then let's prove it," he said. One by one, the hatchlings climbed from his lap and spread their tiny wings. The pack braced for panic, for screams, for attack. Instead, the hatchlings walked calmly to their parents, chirping softly, brushing against the human one last time. The pack's jaws dropped. Even the fiercest dragons had never returned to their parents so willingly, let alone without fear. Ravathar's head tilted. "He protected them?" "Yes," the boy replied simply. "And I'll protect them again if I have to." The alpha lowered his head, smoke curling like a challenge. Flames burst from his maw, hotter than molten metal, intended to test the boy's courage. The human didn't flinch. He placed a hand gently on one hatchling and whispered softly, then extended his other hand toward Ravathar. The alpha's flames hissed against his palm, yet the boy's calm presence didn't waver. Slowly, carefully, he nudged the flames away, guiding the dragon's instinct into control rather than rage. Ravathar stepped back, astonished. No human had ever stood in his presence without fear, much less tamed the energy of his own fire. By the time the sun began to set, the Red Dragon Pack was circling the clearing, wings relaxed, eyes softened. They had come seeking vengeance and slaughter. Instead, they found their hatchling safe, calm, and remarkably attached to a human. Ravathar lowered his massive head, touching it lightly to the boy's shoulder. You have earned our respect, human. The boy grinned. And I've earned their trust. That's all that matters. The hatchlings chirped and flapped around him, smoke curling gently like mist. Even the pack, once a force of destruction, accepted him. News of the event spread rapidly. Across the galaxy, whispers told of a human who had tamed fury without domination, earned loyalty without fear, and protected the untamable with nothing but courage, compassion, and understanding. Humans were small, fragile, and mortal, but this one human had changed the hearts of dragons. He had proven what no weapon, no army, and no alien intellect could, that trust and courage are stronger than fire and teeth. As night fell over the valley, the boy lay back on the ground, hatchlings nuzzling him, the red dragon pack forming a protective circle around them. And the galaxy realized a truth long forgotten. Humans do not just survive dragons, they inspire them. The sun had barely risen over the jagged cliffs of the red dragon pack's territory when the Alpha, Ravathar, flared his wings and circled the clearing. His crimson scales burned like molten metal in the early light. The pack had come seeking vengeance. Any human foolish enough to touch their hatchlings would be annihilated. But the boy, Jaden Grey, was no ordinary human. His small frame seemed almost laughable beneath the looming dragons. Yet there was something in his calm, unflinching gaze that made even Ravathar pause. Jaden sat cross-legged, one hatchling asleep on his shoulder, another resting its tiny head in his lap. His hands moved gently, stroking their scales, whispering softly. Smoke curled from the hatchling's nostrils, but there was no sign of fear, only comfort. Ravathar's jaw clicked. Impossible, he growled. No human has ever survived our fury. And yet, they are at peace. The Alpha landed with a thunderous crash, his wings spreading wide to block the sunlight. His massive head lowered to eye level with Jaden. Flames licked the ground, sending embers spiraling into the air. Human? Ravathar rumbled, voice shaking the earth. Step aside. Return our hatchlings, or face annihilation. Jaden looked up at the dragon, unafraid. They're not yours to take if they don't want to leave, he said quietly. The pack hissed and flared, claws scraping the rocks. But the hatchlings chirped softly, nuzzling closer to Jaden as if sensing the difference between aggression and care. Ravathar's eyes narrowed. You claim to protect them? Against us? Jaden nodded. Yes, I'll protect them from anyone who wants to hurt them. The Alpha's voice dropped to a low growl, rumbling through the valley. If this is trickery, you will die. Jaden didn't flinch. He held out his hand to the hatchlings, gently nudging them to stand. One by one, they obeyed, stepping from his lap to stretch their tiny wings. The pack expected panic, screams, and chaos. Instead, the hatchlings walked calmly toward their parents, chirping softly and brushing against Jaden as if saying goodbye. Ravathar felt a pang of something he didn't recognize. Curiosity, respect, and a strange sense of awe. He protects them? Yes, Jaden said simply. And they trust me. The Alpha exhaled a controlled jet of fire, intended to test the human's courage. The heat was immense, enough to incinerate any unprotected being instantly. Jaden extended a hand, placing it over the edge of the fire, keeping the hatchlings close to him. The flames hissed and danced, but Jaden remained calm, whispering to the hatchlings. They chirped in comfort, leaning into his arms. Ravathar's head tilted. He had never seen such fearlessness, especially from a human. One who could face fire, yet never waver in compassion. Gradually, the tension in the clearing shifted. The pack realized that the hatchlings were safe and calm, not because of force, but because of the human's presence. Every movement Jaden made, every gentle word, reinforced the bond. Ravathar lowered his head closer. Why do they trust you? He asked. Jaden shrugged. Because I care about them. I've never wanted to hurt them. The simplicity of the statement struck the Alpha. No human had ever approached with honesty, only fear or challenge. Yet here was one who had earned loyalty through courage, care, and heart. By mid-afternoon, the Red Dragon Pack had stopped their aggressive stance. Wings folded, claws lowered, they circled the clearing cautiously. Jaden continued to tend to the hatchlings, occasionally laughing as they nuzzled against him. Ravathar finally stepped forward, smoke curling gently from his nostrils. "You have earned our respect, human," he said. Jaden grinned. "And I've earned their trust," he replied. "That's what matters." The hatchlings chirped, flapping their tiny wings, curling against his arms. Even the fiercest dragons of the pack began to recognize him not as a threat, but as a protector, a being capable of bridging the gap between human and dragon. Word would spread quickly from this day forward. A human had tamed the fury of the Red Dragon Pack not through dominance, but through courage and compassion. Hatchlings had learned to trust beyond instinct, showing the galaxy the strength of human heart. Even the fiercest predators could be guided by understanding, not fear. As the sun set behind jagged cliffs, Jaden sat in the clearing, hatchlings sleeping on him, the Red Dragon Pack standing quietly around him. For the first time, the pack realized that humans were not just prey, not just small and mortal. They were beings capable of inspiring loyalty and courage. Ravathar let out a low, rumbling purr, smoke drifting softly. "Perhaps humans are not so weak after all." Jaden yawned, smiling at the sleeping hatchlings. "See? They're safe," he whispered. "Just like I promised." The dragon's eyes softened, and in that moment, the galaxy itself seemed to acknowledge a simple truth. Humans don't just survive dragons, they teach them to trust. The Red Dragon Pack had never seen the skies darken with such speed. A rogue fleet of marauders, drawn by tales of the legendary Red Dragon hatchlings, had arrived in orbit above their territory. They came seeking treasure, claiming the hatchlings as spoils of war. The dragons circled tensely, scales glittering under the twin suns. Their eyes were fixed on the horizon, jaws slightly parted in anticipation of battle. But something was different. The human boy, Jaden Grey, remained calm, sitting among the hatchlings who nuzzled against him. His presence had already altered the pack. They were not just predators anymore. They were guardians, loyal and protective. Ravathar, the alpha, flared his massive wings, sending a gust strong enough to knock the smaller dragons off their feet. "They come for our young," he rumbled. "Prepare yourselves." Jaden stood slowly, brushing ash from his sleeve. "We don't have to fight to be safe," he said quietly. "We just have to protect them. And stay calm." The hatchlings chirped in agreement, their tiny tails flicking as they watched their parent dragons. Even the most ferocious members of the pack looked at Jaden, as if seeking confirmation. His calmness had become a beacon, shaping the pack's instincts in a way no dragon or human had ever done before. The marauders' ships appeared, weapons glowing and engines roaring. Lasers fired toward the cliffs, creating explosions that sent debris into the air. The pack tensed, but they did not attack blindly. Instead, they spread into a protective formation, wings overlapping, talons poised, not to kill the human, but to shield him and the hatchlings. Jaden climbed onto Ravathar's back, wrapping his arms around the dragon's neck. "We'll keep them safe," he whispered. The alpha's massive head dipped slightly, smoke rising from his nostrils in a signal of acknowledgement. The marauders expected panic, chaos, or at least fear. They were met with something entirely different, organized defense led by a human child. With a powerful leap, Ravathar launched into the air, carrying Jaden and the hatchlings along the way. The other dragons followed, forming a living canopy that no laser could penetrate. The hatchlings chirped excitedly, flapping their tiny wings as they rode alongside their parents, while Jaden guided their movement with subtle hand gestures and quiet commands. The marauders fired indiscriminately, but each laser met scales, claws, and wings that moved with uncanny precision. Jaden's calm had taught the pack control. They were no longer just animals driven by instinct. They were allies, coordinated and loyal to the human who had earned their trust. From orbit, the fleet watched in disbelief. A human child was not only surviving the onslaught, but commanding the deadliest dragons with nothing but courage and heart. One of the marauder leaders whispered, "It's impossible. How can one human do this?" Another shook his head. "Fear is not what guides them. Trust, loyalty, it's human." Below, Jaden guided the pack in tight maneuvers, dodging laser fire while keeping the hatchlings safe. He even encouraged the young dragons to try controlled fire bursts, teaching them instinctive defense without panic. The rogue fleet had never faced such precision, and within minutes, their ranks faltered. Ships collided, lasers missed. Confusion spread as the pack moved as one, coordinated, fearless, and surprisingly calm. By sunset, the marauders retreated. Their engines screamed in disarray, leaving the Red Dragon Pack's territory untouched. The Alpha circled the clearing, landing heavily, and looked down at Jaden with eyes full of respect. "You saved us," Ravithar rumbled. "Not with fire or strength, but with courage and care. You are not like any human I have known." Jaden laughed softly, ruffling a hatchling's head. "I didn't do it alone. They trusted me, and I trusted them." The hatchlings chirped in agreement, nuzzling him. Even the fiercest dragons of the pack nudged their heads toward him, a sign of complete acceptance. From that day on, the Red Dragon Pack recognized a simple truth. Strength alone does not command loyalty. Trust, courage, and compassion could achieve what force never could. Jaden had proven that humans, small, fragile, and mortal, were capable of inspiring even the deadliest dragons. The pack's leader, Ravithar, let out a long, low rumble that echoed across the cliffs, a sound that was both pride and approval. The other dragons flared their wings in acknowledgement, smoke drifting lazily, but without menace. The hatchlings slept peacefully on Jaden as he sat among them, their protector, their friend, their human guide. The pack had come seeking vengeance and slaughter. Instead, they had found their young safe and calm, and a human who had earned their respect in a way no dragon had ever experienced. Across the galaxy, the tale of the human boy and the Red Dragon Pack spread like wildfire. Stories told of his courage, his calm in the face of destruction, and the loyalty he had inspired in creatures that no other being could tame. The moral was clear. Humans do not merely survive dragons. They teach them trust, loyalty, and courage through compassion and heart. As night fell, the pack curled around their hatchlings and the boy, flames curling softly from their nostrils like a warm embrace. Jaden smiled, brushing the scales of a young dragon. "See," he whispered, "safe and happy, just like I promised." And for the first time, the Red Dragon Pack understood something profound. Humans were not to be feared, they were to be respected. The Red Dragon Pack's territory was quiet now, the aftermath of the Marauders' failed assault settling over the jagged cliffs. But the pack was no longer the same. The Alpha, Ravithar, stood atop the highest rock, crimson scales glowing under the twin suns, watching the horizon. His pack had learned something extraordinary. A human could be more than prey, more than fragile. A human could inspire loyalty, courage, and respect. At the center of the clearing, Jaden Gray, just 15, sat cross-legged, hatchlings curled around him like living pillows. His calm gaze met Ravithar's, and for the first time, the Alpha felt something unexpected, gratitude. "You have changed the pack," Ravithar rumbled, smoke curling from his nostrils. "You are no longer an outsider. You are one of us." Jaden's eyes widened slightly. "One of you?" he asked. "Yes," Ravithar replied. "You have earned our trust, our respect, and the loyalty of every hatchling. From now on, you are the guardian of the pack." The concept was foreign to Jaden. Humans were not dragons. They were not invincible. But he understood the responsibility. From that moment, he became the bridge between human and dragon, the one being trusted implicitly by both the hatchlings and the fiercest dragons of the pack. Every day he trained the hatchlings, teaching them to control their fire, to coordinate in flight, and to respond to instinct with guidance rather than panic. He spent hours communicating with the adult dragons, learning their language of growls, wing flares, and smoke signals. Slowly, the pack began to see him not as a human, but as their protector, mentor, and family. Months passed. The hatchlings grew rapidly, learning to soar alongside their parents under Jaden's watchful eye. Their scales hardened, their wings strengthened, and their fire became precise, controlled under guidance rather than chaos. The pack began to patrol the territory with Jaden riding atop Ravithar, using hand gestures and whispers to direct them. No marauder dared enter the skies anymore. The legend of the human guardian spread far and wide. Across the galaxy, whispers told of a human boy who had not just survived the Red Dragon pack, but had tamed its fury and become its protector. The most remarkable change was not in the dragon's power, but in their behavior. Where they had once been fearsome predators, they now showed care for each other and their human guardian. They nuzzled him, protected him from storms, and even shared their meals. Jaden had taught them something the galaxy had not anticipated, that trust and respect could rival even the strongest claws and flames. Ravithar, the Alpha, watched his pack with new eyes. "We came seeking revenge," he said softly to Jaden one evening. "We found loyalty and love. You have given us more than we ever imagined." Jaden smiled, brushing the Alpha's snout. "I just wanted to keep your hatchlings safe. Everything else came naturally." One night, a rogue hunter from a distant star system attempted to capture one of the hatchlings. He approached stealthily, believing a human would be no match for dragons. But he underestimated Jaden. Alerted by a whisper of movement, Jaden signaled the pack with a subtle hand gesture. Ravithar and the adult dragons moved like shadows, surrounding the intruder with precision. The hatchlings huddled behind Jaden, safe and calm, while the human guardian faced the threat with courage. The hunter froze, realizing that this human had become the heart and mind of the Red Dragon pack. No one could take the hatchlings without confronting Jaden, and no one had ever seen a human face down dragons with such authority. The intruder fled, never to return. The legend of the human guardian only grew. By now, word of Jaden Grey had spread across star systems. Scholars studied his methods, militaries reconsidered their tactics, and young humans dreamed of dragons not as monsters, but as companions to be trusted and guided. The Red Dragon pack had become a symbol, not of fear, but of loyalty and courage. And at the center of it all, riding Ravithar through the skies, was a human boy who had proven that strength lies not in fire or claws, but in heart, bravery, and trust. Even centuries later, the story of the Red Dragon pack and their human guardian would be told across the galaxy. They came seeking slaughter, but they found their young safe, and their hearts forever changed by a human's courage. The sun dipped behind jagged cliffs. Ravithar, wings folded, rested his massive head lightly against Jaden's shoulder. Hatchlings chirped softly around them, tails entwined. The pack, once feared across 3 star systems, was calm, loyal, and united, not by dominance, but by a human's fearless heart. Jaden whispered, "See, they trust us, because we care." And the Red Dragon pack rumbled in agreement, the sound rolling across the valley like a lullaby and a vow. The galaxy would never forget this human, and the lesson he had taught. Humans do not just survive dragons. They inspire them, guide them, and become their heart.